What is up, everybody? It's Matt Johnson. We are back with another episode of Real Estate Uncensored. This is the place where you get actionable ideas, insight, and inspiration to turn your real estate career into a life of freedom. And we have amazing guests today because there are no guests. It's just you and me, Greg. So we're going to be fantastic and phenomenal, and well, we'll be lots of things. But anyway, yeah. We're going to take some questions. We're going to talk about how to avoid shiny object syndrome and some of the things that we've been noticing in our work behind the scenes with our mastermind crew, as well as some things that will definitely apply to you guys going into the new year or any year. So if you are watching or listening to this at a future time and from an undisclosed location, have no fear. This will apply just as well to you now as it does to when we are recording this as of December of 2017. So with all that being said, with all the stuff that we're going to dive into, first of all, let me welcome the Junior Grandmaster himself in the co-pilot seat, where you so belong, Greg McDaniel. Gregory.
Woohoo! What's up? I am here. I'm happy slappy. And you know what? As you guys can see, if you're watching this, I'm extremely relaxed because I was coming in to do follow-ups. I did 20 phone calls, man. It's taking a while to trudge through it, but there's so much gold in follow-up. So much gold in follow-up. And what I have said many, many a times, that I royally screwed the pooch in business this year because I put a lot of time and effort into other projects that did not bode well for the old financial department. You know, I'm not on Skid Row, but I'm not where I want to be, you know, in the business, and I should have been where I want to be. And so I want to talk a little bit about, you know, my resolution to myself, my dedication to my goals, what I'm putting in place as to make sure that for 2018 my goals are going to be met or exceeded, and consequences if not. I mean, the whole thing, because this time of year people I get carried away with woe is me if you're single or if you have a bad family scenario, oh wow, woe is me if my business didn't go the way I wanted it to go last year. And so people shut off and shut down. And so this is the time when people need to pick up and fire up and go double down on the things that they need to get done for New Year. So there's just a lot of good stuff we're going to talk about today. But I found out there was this bag of dicks out there that's been talking shit about me. I had a good friend of mine reach out to me. She's like, so this so-and-so individual is talking mad trash about you. And I'm like, who is this guy? And when I got in trouble for doing those calls, earlier this year, this guy is still talking shit about that. I'm like, thank God my friend defended me. But you guys, keep in mind there are always going to be haters, and never let them bother you. You got to just push through it. If you're not pissing someone off or doing something that's going to offend some subsect of the world, then your goals are not big enough, and you're just norm. You're the definition of mediocrity, and that's crap. Nobody wants to be mediocre. Nobody.
That's right.
Not even Matt.
Right. No, and it's anti-biblical. Thou shalt not be lukewarm.
What verse is that?
It actually, I believe it's in Revelation, but that's not, I'll refrain from quoting. Like, hang on. Just thought I'd throw that out there. All right, let's get into this real quick. There's a question that caught my eye that is a good jumping off point for us today. This is in the Lead Gen Scripts and Objections Facebook group. If you're not already a member, go join. This is from Don Russell. He says, just curious if your CRM tracks potential buyer habits, such as the number of times they visit, what they look at, and etc. Do you tell them that, or does it appear as if you're stalking them? So, Greg, what say you on that?
People get really weird about you telling them exactly what they've been doing online, even though anyone with half of a brain, a squirrel brain, can pick this up. But you're being tracked every single keystroke of everything you do anywhere online. But just don't tell them that. I mean, I've found the results have been better when you're just like, hey, Matt, Julie, your three obese little wood density engine sucking little trolls.
I just trolls now.
They're trolls, yeah. I don't know how they became trolls today, but they did. But hey, Matt, I saw that you looked at 22 homes and you've been looking at this one a couple of times. That's like, should I be worried? Did I call the police? So just hey Matt, how are you? Just checking in with you. What's new? Are you guys still looking? I got some great properties. There's one that came to mind specifically for you. It's 123 Main Street.
That's right.
I've been looking at that one.
Right.
You have? Oh, you guys are still active. Imagine the conversations. But God, he's good. He
Yeah.
really is
Clairvoyant. That Greg, man, he's always thinking about us. So Greg, you have this. So where this comes to play with you, it's not so much on the buyer end, but on the seller end. So you guys, when you send out postcards to your farm areas through Corfact, and it gives them a place where they can log in and check their house value. I don't know if you've got one of those postcards or whatever handy, but it actually tracks, and it's almost it's a form of lead scoring. So when they get in, they log in to check their home value again. It sends you alerts and it tracks their activity, so you know how to prioritize your follow-up, right?
Exactly right. This is what the card. Hopefully, this is gonna see how this looks. So this is the card for all you guys are watching. It has a map. This is my direct location, right where that little marker is. Then over here, they have a third-party website and a digital code that's completely unique directly to my property. And so every home gets one of these, and you don't have to put like your phone number or email in. It's all third-party. And every time that Matt and Julie check on the value of their home, I get notified in my email that Matt's checking on his value again. So I can just reach back out to them, very kind of nonchalant. Hey, Matt, how are you? How's life? Blah, 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 blah. And it's really nice because you can send one card, right? And that code on that card is good for life. It doesn't like expire in 30 days or something like that. We have had people come back for like, I don't know, man, almost a decade on some of these, properties that we've been running numbers on. We'll be able to stay in touch and how are you? And we're able to have a real live conversation with them. So it's very useful. And we don't make any money off of these cards or anything. This is just what our team's been using. We've had Chris, the owner, on the podcast. We should probably get him back on again. They're doing some pretty interesting stuff over there. But yeah, no, I would not tell them that, I know every keystroke that you're doing and exactly what you're doing for hunting of leads. I think bodes very badly for you at the end of the day.
That's right. So I see that you've been looking for large, stately manors with very isolated, indoor rooms in the basement that are soundproof. Now, I've got the property for you. Let me tell you.
It puts the lotion on its skin. Very Hannibal Lecter of you there, Johnson.
That's right. Okay, so we've got a bunch of people watching. First of all, Gail, John, Paul, Franklin, what's up? We've got John is from Louisiana. Go Tigers. Vic is watching. Cynthia is watching. Guys, first of all, just want to thank you guys for watching and all the people that we have with us today. So thanks for joining us. Make sure to put your comments, your questions, whatever you guys are currently being challenged with, or maybe be sure to share your goals for next year, because that's what we're talking about this year and how to avoid shiny object syndrome. So the reason that we wanted to talk about this today, Greg, is we were working with our mastermind crew, our group of 5 agents that we're coaching behind the scenes here, and we may eventually open that up so that other people can see what we're doing with those agents and get the benefit. But right now we're working with them behind the scenes. And one of the things that came up was one of our agents in the crew. He committed to a certain type of lead generation, but struggling with it this week, struggling with following through. Right. And so we're going through, okay, well, how do you really want to pivot? Do you want to change directions and start on something new? Or do we want to really dig into the reasons why you're not wanting to do what you've committed to do on this week? Why do you want to take a break? And so that sent us down a really good path. And the end result was, well, I really need to follow through on what I committed to, because I do believe that will work. I'm just not in the mood. Well, how do you get yourself in the mood? So let's talk about that. So Greg, when you're feeling that, because obviously you show up to the calls and not every day you feel like it. So let's talk about some of the ways that you get yourself out of that funk.
Some days it's harder than others. But the one thing that I do is that I
You're like a 13-year-old.
I
knew as soon as
get old.
You're already chuckling inside, so I might as well call you on it.
Poop and fart jokes will never get old, man. Always funny.
Hey, I hope you're like this when you're 80. I very much look forward to you saying doo-doo and then chuckling when you're like standing over your walker.
And then doo-dooing in my adult diapers.
Yeah, that may be true. Yeah, well, let's hope that's more in your hundreds and not in your 80s.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, poop aside.
Okay.
This conversation really got shitty, Johnson. So what I want to talk about, guys, is Are you guys listening? He's just rubbing his nose. Just like, oh, damn it, he went there again. So what?
All right.
Back to professionalism. Don't know jokes for us.
Okay.
So what I really do is I'll pump the brakes for a second, and I will get serious with myself, and I'll say, okay, why am I feeling this way? What is stopping me? And then I go and I write down everything that's bothering me, and it's fun to write it out and get it out because it's like releasing it out of your system. And then you realize that nothing that I wrote down is unique enough to stop my day. I learned that at a Tony Robbins event. He said, you know what, tell me what's messing you up. The people were saying stuff. He's like, not unique. This is why. 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 And everybody, was like, oh, I'm sadly normal all of a sudden, and other people are fighting things that are just or worse than mine. And so after I get over that, I literally just tell myself, look, man, you have 90 days. In 90 days, your income and business is going to be a direct reflection of your actions today. So if you don't like where you are today, you're sure as shit not going to like where you are in 90 days if you don't take action now. And so that I sit my ass down and I do my numbers, I give myself a baseline, and I do them. Like today, like I told you guys, I've been very public about this. I left about $300,000 on the table this year from just not doing the work, giving myself every single excuse under the sun not to do the fucking work. And guess what? I got to keep my excuses, and I didn't get to keep my the money. So I sat down. Yeah, the money just strangely just walked away. It was so weird. I did 20 follow-up calls, and see, guys, not high tech, real simple shit here. I have 6 follow-ups. I sent out Gail, if you're still here. I was a good boy. I did 3 send-out cards today to people I had great conversations with. I reconnected with a strong buyer, reconnected with a really strong seller, and that strong seller is going to be a referral for Stefan Adika down in Paso Robles. So I sent out a referral. This is just from doing the follow-ups. This is committing to it. And guess what, guys? It felt good. The dopamine drip started in my brain. I started getting mentally positively rewarded for the hard work that I did. And I went out and I had fun with my follow-ups. That's as hard as it really is. But you've got to commit, absolutely commit to doing a minimum of an hour a day. Guys, that's 4% of your day. If you can't do something for fucking 4% of your day, go work at Walmart. You're not going to make it in this business, and you're going to suck the lifeblood out of all of us and bitch, moan, whine, and complain. I don't know why I can't get any leads. Fucker, because you're not working. That's why. Okay, I'm off the soapbox.
Right. We're going to turn that into a GIF and send that out as motivational fodder. Set that to some inspirational hip-hop music. All right, so we've got Gail agrees, by the way, and Josh Bryan's with us. He says, what's up? What's up, Josh? Right back at you. Andy Shear is watching, wrapping up before the day ends with kids' bath time. Thankfully, neither one of us have any idea what you're talking about, Andy. Yeah. Thank God. Okay, so let's talk about the whole, so that's what you do to, among other things, to get yourself pumped up. I like the idea of writing down kind of what's on your mind, because that's something that really helps me. And Andy is one of those guys, too, that journals a lot. Way more than either you or I do, and I thought I journaled a lot. But Andy is on a whole other level. He's got I think he's filling up a notebook like every 3.5 days or something like that. Wow. But point being, I don't know if that's true. That might be a slight exaggeration. We'll have to get Andy's opinion on that. But that is one of the things that helps me is writing down what's the resistance, right? So when I feel that resistance to do what I'm supposed to do, I'm like, okay. Why am I feeling that resistance? What's the scenario, like what's the story that's playing in my head right now of why I don't want to do this? And I'll write that stuff down, and then I'll write, okay, well, how do I get over that? Is that true? Right, and just start to think some of them, even just the act of writing that down and kind of getting it out of your head so it's not swirling around in there will definitely help. But then if you can isolate it and figure out, okay, well, what's the worst case scenario that I'm playing out in my head, then you can start to actually look at that and see whether that's a true story. So what was interesting in working with this particular agent today was that when you really drilled down to it, it came down to, I feel like I'm putting in the activity and not getting the results that I want to see out. And that brings up a whole other can of worms that I want to get into, which is a lot of us start things in our business and we just start them. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily, because for a lot of people, just getting into action is the problem. So a lot of people need just a swift kick in the butt, and they just need to start doing stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the downside of that is that if you really haven't decided how long you're going to commit to doing something or what the criteria is for success, you fall into this pattern where you're going off of your feelings about it at any given time. And that's what this agent was realizing that they've been doing. Right, so that I'm committed to make the calls, but if I don't feel like it that day, well, that's a problem.
Yeah.
And if I don't feel like it for a few days in a row, well, then maybe I need to stop doing that and I need to do something else. And here's the problem, guys. Your feelings are always going to go like this, no matter what. Like you're gonna get excited, and then that excitement is going to peak at a crest, and then it's going to come down from there. And then all of a sudden, you're going to find yourself on the other end where you're in like the emotional trough, or what Seth Godin calls the dip, right? Where you haven't seen all the results that you want, but you're getting like all the emotional pain, right? Because you're putting in the work and you're not seeing the results. You don't get all the rewards. So you need to find a different set of rewards, and there has to be a different expectation going in. So that's kind of what I want to talk about, Greg, is just I want to go through some of the things that you've committed to and what we're both doing to kind of measure rewards along the way. Because the bottom line, like you said, Greg, like 90 days. I mean, it's just going to take 90 days before you really figure out whether what you're doing is having any payoff, because that's the lead time in real estate. Now, maybe in other businesses it's shorter. In mine, it's probably way longer, right? So, I mean, the nurture time for a new, like on the podcast business, the nurture time for a podcast client is easily a year. Wow. From the time when they express interest in podcasting to the point where they're ready to pull the trigger and become a good client, not a crappy client, a good client that I want to work with. Yeah, I've found to be about a year.
Wow, that is a long lead run, you know. And I want to step. Dean wrote a funny comment in here. He's like, Greg should write Hallmark cards. Oh.
Greg, I feel like most of your Hallmark cards would just start off with doo-doo, and then inside it would be chuckle in brackets. That's what your greeting cards would look like.
Oh, God. So Matt, let's step back here in the conversation a little bit. We were talking about how to get, into our state of mind. How do we do what we want to do? How do we get over that thing? And I've talked about it a lot. It's called the Sedona Method. It's an energy release system. There's 3 simple questions, and what it does is that you just become, you recognize your feeling. You're hurt, you're pissed, you're whatever that is. You recognize it, you own it, and you accept it. Then you ask yourself these 3 simple questions. Could I release it? Would I release it? And when? Now, these are so simple, but just asking yourself for permission to release that energy out of your system does miracles. And I do Sedona Method all the time. I mean, if I'm feeling stressed or ticked or bothered or frustrated or flustered or anything else, I'll do Sedona immediately. Like, could I release it? Yes. Would I release it? Yes. When? Now. And I let it go. Mainly it's when I talk to Johnson.
There's a lot of that.
There's a lot of that. But
and that's when I ask myself, could I hang up on Greg? Yes. Would I hang up on Greg? Yes. When? Now. Click.
Click. Which, by the way, he did on the last podcast. We were talking, and all of a sudden I'm like, talking. Click. I'm like, well, I guess he didn't want to talk about that conversation. Ended up his computer just totally died. But I'm like, okay, then, Mr. Fluffy Pants.
That's right.
But yeah, energy release is a huge thing.
That's a good one. A couple of good comments. Number one, Martin Mayfield says, I'd say do a minimum of 2 hours. If you're newer, do as many as possible with breaks and practice the scripts and know how you sound a lot. Great perspective on daily lead generation. I agree. James, my director of operations, says, Greg, what's the hat? Incompetent podcast assistant?
IPA.
That is the greatest comment ever.
That is funny. That is funny.
We've got a couple of comments on your beard. Andy says Greg is going Grizzly Adams. Rob St. John says McDaniel, the beard is epic. Please do not encourage him. That is something that needs to change.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, so you can do the Sedona Method. You can journal it out. You can go. So here's the problem is a lot, and not that there's anything wrong with getting another emotional bump if you need it, But for a lot of people, that's where they turn first, and they want to go from emotional high to emotional high to emotional high. And that's why they're constantly looking on YouTube for motivational videos. It's why it's why people follow Gary Vee. It's why people follow Grant Cardone, because what they're looking for is they don't really want to do what they've committed to, and they committed to it on an emotional high, and now they need another drug. They need another drug hit. They need another emotional high to get them to continue to take action, to do the next set of things that they committed to do. And that will work for a while. But you're going to find a time, inevitably, when it just won't work for you, right? You're going to wake up that morning and YouTube videos aren't going to cut it, and Gary Vee isn't going to say the right thing that hits you inspirationally, and Grant Cardone is off that day, or something. Like you're going to run out of things. You're going to run out of ways to give yourself another emotional injection. And that's why I think what we're talking about with our agent today on the mastermind is so pertinent, because you really have to have that bedrock of systems and processes and just your own schedule that you fall back on to keep that going, so that you're not having to ride from one emotional high to the other. Ultra successful people don't go from one emotional high to the other.
No, not at all. You stay consistent, but they also have a very strong why behind it, so that it's not. And this is what I tell people every single time. That's why I love Midori, but I asked Midori right when she got into the business, why are you getting into this bone crushing, meat grinding of an industry? I like houses. Oh, you're fucked. You know, it can't be like, it can't just be that. You have to have something that's so polarizing that when you look into its face, you are going to take action every single day, and have that as your burning desire behind you, pushing you, propelling you through those bad days. Because look, buttercups, you're going to have bad days. Clients are going to fire you. Deals are going to fall apart. Agents are going to talk shit. Your broker's going to be a dick. Whatever. But you know what? You've got to understand that, dude, you have like the greatest life. You have complete control of your future. Like I told you, I lost $300,000 of income this year because I didn't do anything. Now, do you think I'm going to repeat that next year? Let me check. Yep, that's a no. Not a chance. But see, the thing is that we talked with this agent, and they didn't want to go door knocking when they committed to door knocking because they wanted to try calls. And the thing is that if you commit to it, guys, you guys got to buckle up and do the stuff that no one else is willing to do, because if you do it today, you're going to reap the rewards tomorrow. And that's what you're doing this for. You can live a mediocre life. You really can. It's not hard. I mean, just stay normal. Just stay normal. Do the average. We all do just enough to get by, but very rare, a small amount of us will shoot through and go and be ultra successful, because we do the things that are just this much different than the rest of the herd, but we're unwilling to do it because we're afraid of the unknown. That's the part that scares the shit out of me. What if I didn't make that phone call? What if I did? What if I decided to take the day off? What if I did whatever and I didn't get on and make these calls, and someone else was able to get to these buyers, the seller, and the referral? Well, then I lost potentially 3 additional deals, and I got about 6 great follow-ups just today out of 20 phone calls. And my why, guys, is that I went down to $35 to my name. I had to give my Denali away because I couldn't make the $650 payments. I had nothing and no one to turn to. And I was thinking about it today, Matt, actually, is that what I did at that point was that I just, tightened my belt. I just got into the trenches, and I never looked up. I never looked around to compare myself to another agents. How well are they doing? How well are they doing? No, one step in front of the next. Do the same routine, do the same process, do it until you get success. And it was amazing how fast things started to, arrive in life if you just put your whole heart and mind to it, because you cannot fail if you don't stop. It is impossible to fail if you don't stop. But which so many people do, they fall off and they stop doing the things that work. They stopped, trying different things. They stopped whatever that was that got them to success, because, apathy set in, and they're like, oh, it's cool, man. I'll just take like an extra weekend off for this, or a day off for here, or I'll just do this, or I'll do that. And that extra mile, when you want to propel yourself and push yourself to excellence, it's really not that hard. That extra mile is really not that hard. It's going to be very, very vacant up there, because not a lot of people are going to go there. And that's the cool part.
That's exactly what Andy commented. There's a hell of a lot less traffic in the extra mile. That's literally what he just commented.
Andy, we're thinking alike here, buddy. Like his beard.
Simpatico.
I've gone the extra mile with his beard. And
yeah, you've gone the extra 5 miles. Now let's dial that back. All right, David says, well spoken, Greg. It's hard not to compare yourself to others, and man, that is 100% true. There are a lot of goals set in the moment, out of comparing ourselves to other people. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very hard to follow through on those goals, right? Because they really don't agree with our subconscious goals, which are really the only goals that we care about. They're the ones that will really actually modify our behavior to hit. So if you set goals that are more about comparing yourself to other people and looking good and all that stuff, just the vanity part of it, and your subconscious doesn't agree with it and never really consents to that goal, you're not going to modify your behavior to hit that goal. You just won't, because your subconscious hasn't really agreed that that's its real goal. So that's one of the things that I want to emphasize. And we talk about goal setting, and there's a lot of people coming into the new year that are going to set goals for the entire year, and nothing wrong with that in and of itself, but a year-long goal is very hard to motivate yourself on a daily basis, especially when we're talking about January and there's no consequences for not hitting it until 11 months later, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not really going to modify your behavior, and that's why we encourage everyone and we've learned this from people that are a lot smarter than us at this, is to think of your goals more in quarters or 90-day sprints. You can call it a 13-week year, a 12-week year. There's a bunch of names for it, but in other words, like shrink the time frame, right? So I don't have goals for next year. Now I have an idea of where I want to go and the direction. I have a picture and a vision of where I'm going, but my goals are all related to 90-day objectives and the things that I'm going to do in the next 90 days that's going to get me closer to my vision of where I ultimately want to be. But if I were to set yearly goals and come January 15th, I don't feel like doing something, a yearly goal is not going to be enough to make me follow through on that thing. But when I start to break it down into quarterly goals, like, hey, I've got to launch this thing like in January. Well, guess what? Come January 15th, that thing that I have on my calendar that says I need to do this, this, and this that relates to my quarterly goals, it's a lot easier to motivate myself to take action when there's a consequence and there's a pain, there's a psychological, mental, and emotional pain that I'm going to inflict on myself right now because I know that I'm getting off track towards the goals that I need to get something launched like in January. And so I would encourage people just to think of it that way, to shorten the time frame of your goals and make sure that you have rewards and consequences for the things that you're going to do in January and February so that you're not trying to hit goals that are a year long that have really no bearing on what you're doing that day, or at least they don't feel like they do.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from on that, but you and I obviously, the way our brains work, we just work a little bit differently. And we always banter about who's right, who's wrong, but there is no right, there is no wrong. It's just the way that you operate. What
you're wrong about.
Shut up.
You're wrong about there being.
This is what I do with my stuff. Is I break it down to the nitty gritty. So I have my yearly goals, which I've written it out, and I've really been really honest. Like I'll share them with you guys here in a minute. But I also am breaking it down to weekly goals and monthly goals, and there are consequences if I do not hit these different landmines, different road marks. If I don't blow myself up, there's a problem.
That's right.
And so I think big picture. It's just the way my brain works. I pick a very large, audacious goal, so I know where I'm heading, and then I work it backwards on what I need to do to get to that big goal. It gets me excited to see the big picture. It gets me excited to see that huge thing up at the end that I'm shooting for. But then I break it down to the logistics of day to day, week to week, month to month, benchmarks, where I am, accountability, and then consequences if I decide to slack off. So like so here, let's do weekly, Matt. Here's and this is something that I've been really thinking about a lot, that it can be attainable, but these are my basement goals on a weekly basis. 5 hours a week of prospecting, so an hour a day, very, very doable. Right. But remember, it has to be met, so I can't be like, take 3 hours a day.
Minimums, yeah.
So 5 hours of prospecting a week, 5 hours of follow-up or pop buys or something like that. I'm going to set 3 face-to-face meetings a week, and then I'm going to pop by 30 of our predictives, and I can explain more of that to you guys on a weekly basis.
Right.
And so if I do not meet those, then the next podcast I cannot do. So this is something that I love to do. Matt and I have an absolute blast doing it. We're helping and changing a fuck ton of lives, and I'm not going to jeopardize that. Besides, then I can come on and talk about how I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing and be accountable to you guys. Because if I don't show up, I get slacked off. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very accountable, very publicly accountable to you, and also very accountable to my team. Having the right team support you is absolutely critical for this. And we had a very emotional conversation and team meeting on Thursday last week. I got misty-eyed. A couple of other team members got misty-eyed. We kind of bared our souls. We kind of owned up to everything, and wrong and right and expectations and so on and so forth. But to have that deep conversation and to rekindle that brotherhood between my father and my business partner, Chris Callahan, really invigorated me for this coming year. Because I had to sit there and look at every one of them and say, I failed each and every one of you, and I took money from you and your families because I couldn't do follow-ups. That hurt, and I will not go through that again. And so here are some of the things that I want to do on a larger level. I want to take our podcast to 120 to 150,000 monthly downloads.
Okay.
I want to do a 36 deals at a minimum to follow the 36 to life that Hank is rolling out, because I'm coaching that with Hank starting January 10th, guys. It's a $300 class for 4 weeks, but if you use Greg 100, I'll put the link in here. You get $100 knocked off. And so we're going to teach you how to do this 36 to life, which is 3 deals a month. Find a really good, solid, quality fucking girlfriend. God,
wait,
gotta be one out there.
That's on your goals for next year?
It's right. It's number 3.
Oh, all right.
Matt, but you made the top of the list, buddy. Okay, you made the top of the heap.
Oh, the podcast? Yes. Thank you.
Put 250 or more real estate agents in the McDaniel group, the team that Matt and I are building. If you guys want to talk about joining our team, message me or Matt. Get in peak physical condition, and I already have apps and everything I've done for that. And then I wrote this down. I want to do something really important and amazing. I don't know what that is. I want to do something really important and amazing, and I want a mission in life.
Greg, I will send you my Amazon wish list, and I thank you in advance for the amazing, momentous things that you're about to do for me. I appreciate that.
Oh, Lord.
I like that.
Yeah, but see, I mean,
yes, so and here's the distinction that I want to draw. So, Greg, and I've talked this over a lot with guys that I respect, like Pasquale, who has a 30-year track record of coaching some of the highest performers in the world in other industries. Greg, you are a guy that you have a foundation, a rhythm of daily performance. Now, there are certain things that you kind of dropped off, follow-ups being one of them, and that bothers you a lot, and I get that, right? But the reason that you're able to set big goals and then work your way back to the daily actions and then like install them into your day, like you install something into a machine, is because you have a machine. There's a lot of people listening to this podcast that don't have that machine. What they have is they go from one emotional high to the other, and they ride off of the way their feelings feel. And then when they come to like setting these big goals, they'll set those big goals in the moment on an emotional high, and then as soon as the emotional high runs out, they have no foundation to refer back to. And so if you're listening or watching this and you realize, wow, that's me, that's mission number one, is go back to the basics and establish that rhythm of daily performance. And if you're a team leader, that is your mission number one, is to help your agents and the people that are on your team establish that rhythm of daily performance. So that's one of my missions for this coming year is, and I don't know exactly how to do it. I know what I want. I know the outcome that I want, and I have an idea of how to start. But I haven't exactly, it's going to flesh out and it's going to evolve over this year. But one of the things that I'm working on for this year is how do I instill in my staff their own rhythm of daily performance? Right, so I'm getting close. Like I have a foundation for myself. Like Greg, you know I'm a scheduled Nazi. Everyone knows that has any dealings with me knows that. I will often pick up the phone when someone like an Aaron Wittenstein calls, and I will let him know I have 7.5 minutes to talk to you. That is all.
Then you get so butthurt when people don't let you out the phone. You're like, click. I'm like, shit, man. All right.
Yes, I literally texted you at the end of our mastermind saying, I have to go now. Wrap it up, buddy. It was 2 minutes over.
You did.
Yes,
I got that. I'm like, oh, shit, here it comes. Better. Okay, all right, guys, here we go. We got to go. And Matt's
That's
like, yep,
right.
okay, love you, bye. Boom. I'm like, Jesus.
Yep. So anybody that knows me knows that about me. So I have that like that part's down. But one of the things that I need to incorporate in my own life, and that's one of the goals for this coming month, is to incorporate a daily call out. In other words, letting my staff know what my mission is for that day that's going to push the business forward. That's at the beginning of the day. And then at the end of the day, letting them know, did I hit that? Right? So that I'm accountable to my staff in terms of my role, which is the sales and marketing end of it to grow the business, right? So I have a director of operations. He handles operations. We've got all this, we've got all the staff and stuff like that, and they each have their roles. So my role is to keep pushing the business forward. I want to let them know that, hey, I have a daily mission, and it's a specific thing that I'm doing that's going to push the business forward for that day. So I want to let them know what that is in the morning, and then if I hit that in the afternoon, and then I want to start encourage them to tell me what their mission is for the day that's going to move their part of the business forward, right? So the ideal is to do it in writing. We may start doing it over Voxer just to start instilling the habit and make it easy to start out with, because you can just do like the voice text, basically. Mm-hmm. And so I have everyone on my team set up on Voxer, and if you can see this, guys, I've got my own Pursuing Results team. So it's like a group chat, except that I can literally just drop in there, hit a button, and record a voice message that instantly goes out to everyone. And if they have that team pulled up, it actually just starts talking like a walkie-talkie message. So that's one of the things that I'm going to start doing with my people, just to reinforce that.
Audio? You're going to do something audio-based, not written-based?
To start, I would do it in writing if it was my choice, but I want to set a good example for them, and I want them to start doing it. So I'm going to start doing it by audio.
The floodgates have opened on you, Johnson. I now am going to send you audio and video Facebook messages, and you cannot bitch at me, because if you're going to use one part of your team, the other business partner is definitely going to have that right too. End of story. No discussion on this.
Fine.
No
get on Voxer, and you can.
I am on Voxer. I am on Voxer.
Realistic Uncensored. All right. Great. Hang on.
Oh God. No.
I got to find you. Oh, there we go.
Oh God.
Greg, this is for you to listen to later. Screw you.
just sound fun. Yes. Screw you. Horrible, mean Voxer messages back and forth.
That's right.
So let's keep talking about a little bit in regards to the accountability. I think something that you're hitting on here is very, very powerful, and that's you having the accountability to your team, and your team knowing that as well. It's not you talking down to them. It's them looking back to you for your obligations to be met. You can't lead a team or an organization or whatever else, without responsibilities being on you and having your people be able to call you out if you didn't do your job. That's the one thing that I think is one of the most powerful things that Matt just was talking about there, is that it's a uniformed team feeling. It's not like, all right, you do this, you do that, you do this. I'm not going to tell you guys shit about what I'm going to do, because I'm on the beach drinking pina coladas. That's what they're going to think if they don't see you. I mean, there's a head of an organization that I've been a part of that, the boss, dude, homeboy never shows up. And when he does show up, it's not like, hey, what's up, man? It's more like, oh, fuck, what hit the fan? Get in the office and close the door. And you just want to, because you're like a kid you don't know if the parent's going to yell at you. And that's not the type of organizations that people will thrive and flock to. Go look at everything that Simon Sinek puts out. He talks in depth about company culture and the difference between the military and private sector, and how in the military they call each other brothers and sisters. In business they're called coworkers. There's a big difference there on how the organizations operate and what people will do for their colleagues, fellow brothers and sisters in the armed forces, or your buddy Frank who sits in the next cubicle over from you. Think about your organizations. What kind of goals have you guys set out? What kind of culture do you have? Do you have a culture of giveness and growth and ample, or is it fear and being run more like a dictatorship? It'd be very interesting to see what type of each organization, what type of goals they write, and what kind of goals that they achieve based upon the culture of the team, the brokerage, anything like that. That's very interesting.
How about a benevolent dictatorship?
Why, are you applying for a job?
No, That's just what mine is. Rob St. John says he was literally typing Simon Sinek when Greg brought it up, of course. And Leaders Eat Last is one of Dana's favorite books.
Yeah.
Yeah, Simon Sinek is ridiculous. And yeah, you do need to have a culture where people are kind of headed on the same mission and doing things for the same reason. And Greg, what you experienced when you talked about the person that, you know, that's part of an organization that you've been involved in, like being absent. It's one thing to be an entrepreneur that builds a business like a Richard Branson and then oversees the people that are doing the majority of the work, and he's there for strategic oversight and things like that. Everybody gets it, because guess what? Richard Branson's still on the climb every day. Yeah. Now, he may not be deeply involved in that specific business, but they respect him as an entrepreneur. He may only check in with that business once a month, once a year. They don't care. Right, because they respect him as a person, as a leader, and he's still pushing the overall brand forward. He's still involved in other key areas of the business, you know, of the whole Virgin Empire, for example. So right. you can have somebody that isn't involved in every aspect of the business, but they've created such a great culture, and their why is so big that people come under that and they respect that, and they want to run through a wall for that person. And so it's not about necessarily that you have to be involved in micromanaging your business or your team or anything like that for them to respect you. You have to be on the climb yourself. You have to be pressing forward in some areas of your life. Like you can't operate your own life on cruise control and then expect other people to want to run through a wall for you. It's like it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah, you know the thing. Let's talk about Branson here really quickly. He wrote a book that I don't know, randomly I picked it up somewhere, and his book is called "Screw It, Let's Do It." And he talks about, you know, what and how he propels himself and how his brain works. It's fascinating. The guy's almost died, I don't know, like 4 or 5 times in hot air balloon races. The dude's a freaking maniac. But he has the most fun in business. But he's laser focused on his goals. There was a story that was done. Darren Hardy, the ex head of Success, magazine. This donor of, Success, is responsible for a ton of subscriptions. He said, hey, look, I know you know Richard Branson. Can you reach out to him to keynote at a function of ours? Typically, Darren wouldn't do this, but this guy, like hundreds of thousands of subscriptions. So he's like, okay, let me reach out to, to Richard and his people. Long story short is that Darren's people reached out to Richard's people and said, hey, look, this individual wants you to speak. He'll pay you, $200,000 for 60 minutes. Richard's like, no. They came back 500. No. $1 million. No. Fuck. What's the number? They said, this is the response of the staff. Richard has 4 agendas, 4 things he's working on. And if something doesn't fall within those 4 categories, it is a categorical response of no. And what I loved about that is they were chartering a plane. They were going to pay him, $10 million or whatever it was for him to show up. But since it didn't fall in one of his wheelhouses, he said no to it. That's something that we need to be really a lot better at in real estate, is that we have shiny object syndrome, and we run around like cats in a rainstorm because we get frustrated because we aren't seeing the results that we feel that we should see in the time frame we specified. Yep. You saw how weird, how wrong that is? You're setting an expectation based on no data. Because, one, if you're just in the business and you're seeing a guy who's been in the business for 30 years succeed at an epic level, well, that's because they've been doing it for 30 years, and you can't expect the same response. It's like a 3-year-old, trying to go up against Michael Phelps in a swimming contest. You're fucked from the jump off. But give yourself the time to put your blinders on, guys, like horses, and just look straight down, 1 foot in front of the other, 1 foot in front of the other. It's gonna get painful. You're gonna be sweaty. You're gonna be tired. You're gonna be beat up. You're gonna feel non-successful because you're not seeing the results. But you need to only compare yourself to your last results. If you are beating you, Air 5, you are winning. You can't compete against someone else. You can't, because we don't know what their ability to close. We don't know anything about these other people. So you have got to just mark your own successes, and that's your benchmark. This is where I start. I know where I was last year. Fuck that shit, dude. My bar is here, and I plan on hitting here. It's just all because I'm competing against myself now. And that's what makes it fun, because I can't lose.
Right. Well, and we were talking about an interesting new form of, what would we call it, a new form? It's an innovative form of lead generation that you are implementing. You just started this week, right?
Hmm?
And you don't know exactly what the results are going to be, but you do know that you're going to give it a certain period of time. And this is one of the things that I wanted to get across earlier that I don't think I finished my thought on, which is that a lot of people, they will try a form of lead generation. Either they'll stop everything they're doing and try this thing, or they'll do it on top of what they're doing. But either way, they really have no timetable for when they expect to get the results. They expect to get a feeling of results that they can't really peg down to any certain numbers. And so when they don't get the feeling of having results, they look for an out. And their first response is, well, let's try something else.
Right.
When they never attach any sort of numbers to anything, there was never a defined time frame. I'm going to do this for 3 months, and then I'm going to evaluate the results. There was never any numbers assigned to what the hell does results actually mean. And so it's all operate off of feelings. It's 100% feelings. So guess what? 2 weeks in, you're going to feel like it's not working. Another 4 weeks in, you're probably going to still feel like it's not working. That's just the reality of what it is when it comes to lead generation and marketing. Like, it just takes those strategies time for the fruit to like be obvious, right? I mean, imagine if you planted trees, if you're planting like fruit trees, and every month you go out there and you're like, well, this isn't doing anything, and you rip it up and you plant a new tree. I mean, that's effectively what agents are doing every day in the business. Stupid tree. That's right.
Not growing fast enough. Grow.
That's right.
Grow.
Where's the apples? Come on. I'm hungry now. Let's get some Red Delicious. So I would encourage everybody that as you come into the new year and you're thinking of, okay, what's that next thing, or what's that lead generation? What's that form of finding new clients that I'm going to add in? Set yourself a time frame. Like, look, either I'm going to just do this every day and I'm going to trust the process that it's going to work and I'm just going to put blinders on and not stop, or I'm going to do this for a month and I'm going to evaluate the results. Do I enjoy it? What kind of response am I seeing? Am I getting at least leads? Maybe they're not turning into appointments, but let's say, am I getting leads, right? And just set yourself some benchmarks on, hey, this is how long I'm going to commit to doing this, and this is the results that I'm looking to see. And if I get these types of results, I'll keep doing it. And if I don't see them, well, then on to the next experiment. So just decide up front whether it's going to be a thing that you just do because you trust the process, or whether it's going to be a short-term experiment that you're going to evaluate. Because one of the things I know people are very interested in is, Greg, to do Facebook Lives like you do. And so we have a whole training on that. Go live on Facebook.com. And that's 100% free, and you can get the training there on exactly how to do what Greg does. And I know there's going to be a ton of people that try this, like in the first 2 weeks of the year. They're going to go, man, I know I need to get on Facebook Live. I know I should be doing it. I know I can meet a lot of potential clients. I know I can build a lot of great relationships, and I'm going to do it. And then January 15th rolls around, and they're going to go, I don't feel like doing it. I'm not seeing the kind of response I want. Even though they have no idea what they were expecting, there was no numbers, there was no commitment. They just don't feel like doing it. And so we're hoping to prevent that from happening to you guys. So set some goals, set some benchmarks, decide how long you're going to commit to it, or decide whether it's a short-term experiment, and decide just what does success look like before you go into it, rather than just operating off of feelings.
Yeah, the feelings is really something. The more you talked about it, I got emotional. I got feelings too, man.
Thanks.
It is true, though. I mean, that's the basis of shiny object syndrome, because we're running around like with chickens with our heads cut off, and we get emotionally attached to in our perceived lack of achievement in lead generation, or getting getting smarter, or whatever that thing is that you're trying to do. You put unrealistic expectations and timeframes on yourself. I mean, if you just did this, guys, I will give you your business plan for next year. Here it is. Every day, walk out of your office, take 25 business cards. Walk out Monday, turn left. Walk out Tuesday, turn right. Don't come back until you've contacted, said hi or handed out to 25 business cards. If you do that, you will have business coming out of your ears in less than 6 months. But it's not fun. It's scary. It's intimidating. You go meet new people, man. It's so weird. Wait, dickhead, you're in a business that has to deal with people. Go meet more people. That's it. Go in Christ, my son. You have now been blessed.
And with your spirit as well. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's start wrapping this up. So how do people connect with you?
You guys go to Facebook and follow me. Honestly, that'd be the easiest thing there. Go send me a private message if you guys like to have a conversation. Matt and I have decided that we are definitely not going to be doing coaching. I have one client, and it is staying at one client. But I'm going to put a link in to the Facebook here, guys. To the Facebook. I am doing a training with Hank Avex, the 36 to Life. We'll show you the baseline on how to run a referral-based business, how to grow it at a very low-cost, no-cost opportunity for you by following a very simple, rigorous, but simple pattern on contacting your sphere of influence and everyone else around you. The link, guys, is going to be a link to the session. Starts on January 10th. Guys, it's typically $300. I'm going to knock off $100 with the code Greg100. And then with that, you guys can get it for $200. It's a 4-week course. Epic value in this. Epic value. If you guys want to do training, if you want to get this thing up and running, if you want to kick ass and take names this year, take this training. It's $200 fucking dollars, guys. Seriously, got some good value there. So, Facebook there, and then I think we can go to Book of Big Johnson. Book Johnson.
Let's clarify. First of all, it's not Book Big Johnson. That is something else. I believe that's one of Greg's personal sites. I make no guarantees as to what content is there. Anyway, all right, guys. So if you have questions, I just had a very nice conversation with an agent who's been listening to us for about a year earlier today. She just had some questions about kind of where she's at in her business, and she was thinking about hiring a coach. I recommended that she get into Greg's training program instead, because I don't think she's at the phase where she needs a coach at this point to do what she needs to do and refine what's already working for her. She needs some training and to get more consistency in her schedule. And so if you want to have a call like that where we just dig into a little bit of where you are now, what you've been thinking about doing to get you to the next level, and then I can kind of direct you to some of the resources, or maybe a coach that has been on our show that we trust, that we know is really good. Each of the coaches that we have on the show have certain specialties, and we have a pretty good idea of who resonates with each of those people. And so if you're looking for kind of an impartial second opinion on who you should hire, what you should buy, what training programs are out there, what's good, what's not, just grab a short call on my calendar. It's 15.bookjohnson.com. So that is the specific link that takes you to the 15-minute appointment. So with that being said, you can also follow both of us on Facebook, subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, all that good stuff. There was one last thing that I wanted to address before we finish off today. So Rob St. John, team leader, says, it was a great comment from earlier that we didn't get to go deeper on. I want to go deeper on it for a second. It says, trust in your team is far different from passing the work off. And Rob, I think you're exactly right. Greg, you and Eileen have a relationship now built over years of trust and consistency, where you trust her at a level where you don't have to pay attention to what she's doing.
Yeah.
That is something that does not develop immediately, and it's very tempting for agents and for any entrepreneurs, just because we want to push things forward, that we want to kind of throw that task over the shoulder at someone and have them just kind of pick it up and run with it. If you find someone that can do that, now I know somebody that has that, Frank and Scott at Viral Marketing. Frank is the CEO, Scott is like the VP of sales. Frank got super lucky, and he found somebody that could like take the stuff that he pitches over his shoulder and ran with it, right? Scott is not cheap talent. Now, Frank got him for cheap. But he found him in a very awkward niche of time where he had just moved to San Diego and was looking for a fresh start. And so he got superstar talent for very low dollar amount per hour. If you find that, that's awesome, but that's not most people, and that's not most team members. Most team members, you can't just throw a task over your shoulders at them, let it hit them in the face, and then expect them to pick it up and run with it. You're going to have to do it and hand it off. And then even after you've handed it off, monitor the results on an ongoing basis. We've had the same writer on staff, Greg, that's done our podcast for probably going on 2 years, at least a year and a half. I still meet with her for a half hour every single week on video, week in and week out. Now, do we always have a half hour of stuff to talk about? No. Will I ever cancel that ongoing meeting? Absolutely freaking not. Because that's what keeps the quality and the expectation level and the flow of communication going, right? So even though I would love to spend that half hour of my time doing something else, I know that once I let that go and I don't have that rhythmic, ongoing communication with every single person, it's just inevitable. Performance will start to dip. They don't mean to. We're all well-meaning. We don't mean to do that, but it will happen. So I just wanted to point that out real quick.
Yeah, the thing about Eileen is very, very true. I mean, she has my credit card numbers. She has my bank accounts. She has literally the keys to the kingdom. And it's 12 years of trust that's built up. And, she's like family. But, I mean, if you guys can ever find yourself an Eileen, a steel trap, as I call her, because she literally never forgets anything. It's scary. It's freakish, and I love it. My dad, the grandmaster, will literally call her and be like, who are the people that had the two big dogs and they had the little girls? Oh, the Jacksons. Thank you. Hey, Mr. Jackson, how are you? He'll run into people in the Safeway, and he will call her, and she'll just pull that stuff out. And say, oh, yeah, it's Bob and Phyllis. How do you do that?
That's awesome.
All right, guys.
Not my skill set.
No.
That's way too people-y.
Oh, so many things pop on my mind so quickly right there. I'm just going to shut up. Anyways, guys, please help us by spreading the word about this show. We can only get to so many people. We need you guys to share this with a friend, a manager, or, another fellow agent. Don't hoard us away. Share us. Take us out of the jar.
Don't squirrel us away like nuts for the winter.
Nuts.
Share.
But you guys share it out. Give people the access to learn for free. The reason why Matt and I do this show is because we want to give free information and education to people so they can be better. Share this with the agents that are around you because the other agents won't be such a dipshit. Now, next time you do a deal with them, they'll have some knowledge base underneath their belt and they can run a deal better. That's why we do this, because we love you guys. And it should be evident at this point at 3 years deep of doing a podcast together and always giving value.
That's right.
Okay. I'm done with ranting. Are you done?
I'm done with ranting.
Okay, no more the rant fest off. Zip. All right, guys, we're going to be coming back again with another great show this week. We got 2 more shows this week. And then I think we're off for part of next week because of Christmas. Mm-hmm. But just know, we're here. We love you. Message me, follow me, and friend Matt. He loves new friends. All right, guys. Until next show. Peace out, ninjas. Gone.